Everyone has a life story. It's the essence of what has happened in our lives, and it encompasses our entire life experience.
Though some stories may be longer than others, each is unique, and no two are written alike. Like any good story, our life story takes many twists and turns. Its chapters can unfold in many unpredictable ways.
I'm Phil Martin, Executive Director of Honoring Choices Tennessee, and we're a group working very hard to make advanced directives patient and family friendly so they don't cost anything, so they aren't intimidating, and they don't take long to create and are easy to put in place.
And I'm Dr. Gloria Thomas Anderson, the Executive Director of Heart Tones. It's a literary arts ministry that offers people inspiration and encouragement in every season of life common to humanity. We focus on providing educational resources for end-of-life care and advanced care planning for Black families that can help bridge the gap in medical decision-making and healthcare planning.
As we encounter new life experiences, our life story grows and it gets amended along the way. And over the years, we find meaning in the progression of one event to the next.
You are the author of your own life story. So wouldn't you like to have a say in how it concludes? You can write the best possible ending to your story by making the choices that mean the most to you at the end of your life. By creating an advance directive, designating the type of healthcare you wish to receive, and appointing someone you trust to make critical care decisions on your behalf when you can no longer speak for yourself, you can finish well.
In this presentation, you'll learn how to control the ending of your story. You'll be able to do that by creating an advance directive and learn why everybody needs one. Create your own, teach others how they can create their advance directive, and make a difference in the lives of others who make up your faith community.
Most people don't want to spend their final days in a hospital. They prefer to be at home surrounded by the ones they love. But statistics show the most aging individuals wind up in an acute care setting like an ICU or nursing home. In some cases where the patient has dementia, chances are they will receive uncomfortable, unnecessary, and unwanted care.
So I'm Phil Martin. My son Alexander Martin was playing basketball one day and he had a heart attack, and it took the first responders about 25 minutes to get there. So they were able to get him stabilized, and he was in a coma for a week, but he died 7 days later. And I'm here with my good friend and Alexander's cardiologist for that week, Dr. Merrill. He was too young to have an advance directive, but if in my heart of hearts, I knew what Alexander wanted. He wanted to be underneath the center on the football field. He didn't want to be in the stands.
Yeah,
so
you have this child, you know, so full of life and so vigorous and active, and then all of a sudden he's not able to do that. And I can imagine that that's very, very hard to accept as a parent.
You know, as I look back, tell me I did the right thing.
You did the right thing. There's no question.
You can give your family a great gift. You can tell them in advance what you want if you should ever encounter a certain situation. And that way of doing that is an advance directive. So I would encourage everybody, for the people you love, do that advance directive, because the peace of mind that will come from giving them that gift, you can't put a price tag on it. Real life experiences show that longer lives aren't necessarily quality lives. Individuals with an advance directive get better care than those who don't have one. How do you want others to see and remember you? Make the last chapter one they'll always cherish.
Only you can write the best possible ending to your life story and finish well by focusing on the things that matter most to you. But how and where do we have these conversations that can change end of life and make it more dignified, more compassionate, and fitting? Many people trust and rely on their spiritual family for support in these types of times in their lives, and the church is often considered a safe place to have these important conversations. It's a space where we can include our personal beliefs and our cultural values. So our communities of faith with our Creator, our pastors, and those that we love can be a good place to start.
I think it aligns with the mission of the church in the sense that we are a part of the community, connected to the community, and our members come out of the community. And in addition to providing spiritual care for them, we also want to take care of them physically and be attuned to those things that can help care for their physical needs as well as their spiritual needs. Well, I think it's important because when individuals get to the point where they can't make decisions for themselves, if they have an advance directive, then it's kind of clear to everyone in the family what they wanted to have done if they came to that particular point. So if mother gets to a point where she can't speak for herself with an advance directive, then all of the siblings or children, they know what mother wants to have done, as opposed to and we'll see this all the time in the church, as opposed to individuals who may be holding on and they're looking to the Lord for a miracle. And we do know that the Lord works miracles, but at the same time, we have to come to the reality of human mortality, that there's a time when we are all going to die. And so, we've seen situations where family members want to hold on and mother didn't have an advance directive. And so you're kind of caught in the middle of that, between one saying one thing and another saying another thing. So kind of coming to an agreement, it helps the family a whole lot.
The Pew Foundation, in its research, discovered that for people of faith, preparing for death can be not only a gift they provide to their family, but also a way to express their faith in their Creator's plan. It can be an expression of religious gratitude for life and the anticipation of a better life and world to come.
Well, as a nurse, what I have seen with families that have advance directives in place, first of all, this is not easy either way. These are hard conversations, but they have to be done. advanced care planning is not always done as a family unit. And that is really what I'm trying to encourage, because families need to kind of make decisions. Now, mind you, everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has their own way of handling end-of-life issues. But if the family could be more involved, maybe that would make some things just a tad bit easier. Losing somebody, going through the stages of loss is hard. Any kind of way you go, but the decisions still have to be made, and you can decide as a family member before if you're going to be part of this or not. Would you want to spend a person's last hour battling? No. You will want to remember them for the great things that they stood for, and all the opportunities to care and love and show compassion, and what they did for you when you were a kid. That's an opportunity that sometimes gets muddled and missed because we're focusing on other things. But there is great joy in living. But death is inevitable. It will happen. And I just think it's an opportunity advanced care planning is an opportunity to get some things straight, and to remember a person in their last days even better. And I always recommend people to have the conversation yearly, even if they have advanced directives, because just for instance, when you're dealing with a disease process such as Alzheimer's disease, if a person's in their first stage, you may feel one kind of way, but if they're in their last stages, you may feel another type of way about resuscitation or other things, and it's okay to have the conversation again.
Every state has its own rules and laws governing advanced directives, and Tennessee has made its laws very user-friendly. Here's how we got here. The Federal Patient Self-Determination Act of 1991 said every healthcare facility must inform patients of their rights regarding making healthcare decisions, and that every state has its own laws on the subject. Tennessee's Revised Healthcare Decisions Act of 2004 creates an advanced directive that includes two parts: healthcare power of attorney, that is, somebody you appoint to speak for you on matters of healthcare if you can't speak for yourself. And the second part is a living will, and that states what care you would want in certain circumstances. Tennessee focuses on what the patient intended rather than imposing a lot of legalese.
Regardless of your current health situation or age, advanced care planning is important. If you couldn't speak for yourself because of a life-threatening illness or accident, what would your wishes be? Completing advanced directives can help you take charge of your own health and give your loved ones peace of mind by knowing what you would want if you can no longer speak for yourself.
Advanced Care Directive is a document that people can think through their wishes and then actually write down on paper what they want in the event that they have an unexpected illness or as they near the end of life. It's a way to be able to communicate their preferences on quality of life, different treatments, and it gives people an opportunity to be able to think about what those choices might be well in advance of an illness. Advanced care directives need to be revisited because what you want today may be different 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 10 years from now. I think COVID taught us many lessons. It made us realize that we didn't fill out our advanced care directives nearly enough, and people began to have those conversations. And now, hopefully, as we're stepping back from COVID, we are remembering the importance of these documents to be able to not just talk about our wishes on quality of life, what types of treatments, but also to be able to name who you want to make decisions, who you know would make the same decisions you would make for yourself. I have taken care of patients who have never thought about the idea that they may one day die, and people who have thought about it a lot. And I'll start with a story of someone who never had conversations. So this is several years ago. He was in his early to mid-90s, and he came in with a stroke. Unfortunately, the stroke left him in a position where he couldn't communicate. He was on a ventilator. He had a room full of people in his family that we met with, and we talked about, tell me about your grandfather, your father, your uncle, and they described this man who loved life, who was very interested in what was going on with his family, and just really a neat person. And we talked about, well, did he ever talk to you about what he may want at the end of life? Did he ever talk about what types of treatments he wanted? The entire room, which had, I think, at least 10 people, they were all left in shock. No one had an idea of what he wanted. And at one point, someone actually said, I don't think he ever talked to us. And the angst they felt at how to make a decision, that's why we need an advanced care directive. This man was in his 90s and never had contemplated what he wanted for his wishes. And this family had to guess. And guessing when someone is ill is not a great way to make decisions. We don't make decisions when we're stressed and if we're trying to do our best and we have no idea. The pressure is incredible. And now to give you a story of the exact opposite, I have a patient I take care of, and I've been taking care of her also for more than a decade. I met her in the hospital, and this was when she had a recurrence of her lung cancer more than 10 years ago. And at that time, she had just had a resection. She was pretty active, and we talked over the years about what she wanted. She had an advanced care directive because she had survived 2 different husbands who had passed away. And she was very clear that she did not want to be kept alive on life support. She has a son who's in the healthcare industry. He's a nurse. He works here. And so she was very clear about naming her decision maker, her backup decision maker, what her quality of life was, and what we really strive for people to do. She had shared those wishes with her son. Now, having an advanced care directive is important, but revisiting those conversations are important as well. She, over the years, developed worsening complications of her cancer and worsening COPD, and she went from initially being okay, being in the hospital, maybe even wanting to be in the ICU, to now really being at peace with her own mortality. So we would bring her to the hospital if there was something we couldn't do at home. She gets oxygen for comfort. She doesn't want a ventilator, and all of these documents had been written out, shared with her family, and uploaded into our chart, so it is clear as day what she wants. Even if I was on the other side of the world, people would know exactly what she wants. Her family wouldn't have to explain this because we've had these conversations over years. I think when we think about end-of-life care, death and dying, having your wishes planned out, when we think about good and bad, at least the way I think about it, it really should be personalized. So there are some people who need to know they tried every last thing and go to the ICU and maybe try life support, and there are other people who may want none of that, and there are people in between. I think, to me, a good death is trying to get a sense of what someone wants at the end of life and trying to see if we can achieve that. So if I hear that somebody wanted to die in their house, and we didn't have conversations, and so when it came time to know that they were nearing the end of life, they weren't aware and they came to the hospital, and that could have been avoided. And they didn't die around their family, they died around people like me. That, to me, would be a bad death. I think if I meet someone who says, gosh, I understand there's uncertainty and I'd be okay going to the ICU, and they come to the ICU for whatever treatment and then realize this is not okay, and we get them maybe to a hospice house or home, or they even die in the hospital, but that's consistent with their wishes, their values, and their goals, to me, that would be a good death, personalized. So people tend to confuse the word hospice and palliative care all the time, patients, families, clinicians. When I think about the two terms, I think about palliative care as a big umbrella, and hospice is one portion of that umbrella. To define palliative care, it's taking care of patients who are facing a serious illness. You don't have to be dying. You don't have to be at the end of life, just facing a serious illness. And the goal is to help someone live their best quality of life using a multidisciplinary approach, so through physicians, nurses, social workers, therapists, the chaplains, that sort of thing. Hospice has a prognostic implication. It's for people who are nearing the end of life, specifically the last 6 months. We're allowed to be wrong. I have referred people to hospice who've lived more than a year. As long as, based on my judgment, I think they're going to live 6 months and they continue to meet that criteria, they meet hospice criteria. And the goals, of course, for hospice are to help support the patient and their family at the end of life. I think there are so many things that impact how we receive the idea of an advanced care directive, what we do with the document, and if we'll ever fill it out. I used to work in New York City in a hospital in Queens, and we had a lot of Chinese patients and a lot of Asian patients will not actually want to engage in the conversation. They'll assign maybe their son or daughter, and they'll stay out of that conversation. It's important to know that. We have a large population that is Muslim in this hospital, and they look at end of life differently. There are some things that they would never even talk about and never want to talk about, and it's important for us to be able to know that. These decisions are personalized. People need to be in the right frame of mind. There are folks that we see who are from lower socioeconomic class. Some of these folks may mistrust people in healthcare. They may mistrust people who don't look like them. So I think there's a multitude of factors, and I think the important piece is first getting to know someone, getting to know their values, understanding who they are, and maybe even getting a different person in to have the conversation if you're not the right fit. You know, when someone gets sick, it is the family's responsibility often to be there to take care of them. And I don't think people think of that as a responsibility, as rather something they want to be able to do. When we're making decisions for someone and we don't know what they want, that becomes an impossible task. So I would recommend that families sit their loved ones down and let them know that even if it's uncomfortable, even if they don't want to do it, they need to spend some time and talk about what's important. Maybe the first question is, who's making decisions? If it's a large family, you don't want to make assumptions. What does quality of life mean? How would someone feel in the setting of uncertainty? There are people who are risk takers and might try every last treatment, and there are other people who may not want to do that. Having the family engage a patient or their loved one in terms of what's important, who would make decisions. Sometimes families are really large. What type of risk would someone be willing to take? I'm not a risk taker, but there are many people who are. And maybe trying something in the setting of uncertainty. Not what's your perfect quality of life, but what's the bare minimum? What can you live with and make a life out of? I think all those things are really important. And if someone is still reticent to have a conversation, the way I share with people is that this is a gift. This is, you know, when someone has a conversation, that's a gift you're giving me because now I know what you want. I am not stranded on an island trying to wonder what you want. So really, if you reframe this and this is how you're going to help me, I think people really find that resonating. I think it's really important that when people pick a decision maker, they pick someone who can for sure make the decisions they would want made for themselves. So if you pick someone who would say A and you want B, that's not the right person. I think the other thing is these decisions are hard. They're burdensome sometimes, and for some people, that burden is too heavy. So make sure the person you pick is willing to do that and it's not going to break them. You know, these are important decisions and they should be thoughtful. And naming someone should also allow that person to accept or decline. I'm a planner, so I love to plan. People like to avoid the things that make us uncomfortable. Death and dying is uncomfortable. You know, you hear this a lot. We plan our birth. I got what to expect when I'm expecting 1 billion years ago. But people don't like to talk about death, and the truth is we're all born and one day we'll die. And what I tell people is if you want control at the end of your life, then you better have a conversation. If you don't care, it'll become entropy. Things will just kind of happen the way they're going to. But if you want to say what the end of your life looks like, then that's the way to do it. And I think people avoid it for that fear. And if we can get over that fear and show people about the empowerment, I think we can do better.
That brings us to a point in this webinar when we attempt to answer some of your questions. So Phil, what are some of the most frequently asked questions that you've been asked in your work?
Well, one question people often ask is, can I change my advance directive if I change my mind? And that's a great question. The answer is absolutely. You simply need to repeat the 4 steps we mentioned in the video, and your most recent advance directive will take effect. Another point that can arise is in the case of dementia. You simply need to make sure you complete an advance directive in the earliest possible stage of the disease. Because if the patient is incapacitated, the courts might have to weigh in, and that is never the best ending. What about cases of mental illness? Again, capacity comes into play. But for the majority of cases, it's still possible to create an advance directive. A logical question that sometimes arises: are advance directives made in other states valid in Tennessee? The short answer is yes. So long as the advance directive is valid in another state, it will be honored here in Tennessee. What if I'm able to communicate for myself? Is it my advance directive? Is it still in place? Well, advance directives only take effect if the patient can't decide and communicate for themselves. Now comes the part of the program where we get you involved and we show you just how easy it is to create an advance directive for yourself. The first step is to go to this website, www.advanceddirectivestn.org. Once you are there, on the home page, the first thing you will see is a 4-step process. If you will let it, the site will lead you through the 4 steps and you will have your advance directive. But we're not going to make you do it by yourself. We're going to walk you through it so that you know how to teach others to create their own advance directive.
Hey, Mom.
Hey, baby.
How you doing?
Not good. I'm okay though.
I just came to check on you.
Thank you.
It was a beautiful service, wasn't
It was beautiful, but just those kids, her kids just act so ugly. I just don't understand how they could do that. Their mom deserved better than that, for them to be bickering and arguing. And I don't, it just upset me.
it? I know. It must have been really hard for you to see that.
Yeah, we've been friends for over 40 years. She deserved a better, just very hard for me right now.
Yeah. What do you expect when, nobody knew her wishes and they had to make decisions? Not everybody's going to agree. Sometimes it can get messy. Yeah. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to make sure you're okay.
I'll be okay. I'm grateful for y'all. You and your siblings, y'all wouldn't act that way. Y'all some good kids.
Yeah, we disagree too, though. We don't always get along. You don't see all of that, but yeah. I really want to have a discussion with you about what we would do with you. You say we get along, and yes, we do most of the time. But when something serious happens, we're going to need to have your voice. If, I say if,
Well, I'm all right now. I don't see no need to do nothing, I'm here, I'm healthy, I'm doing good. So I don't know why we would need to talk about that.
I get it. I do get it, Mom. You are healthy right now, which is why we need to know now what you would want us to do. That way we don't have to fight about it. We don't have to guess, and we can do what you would want.
I want y'all to do what I want.
Yeah.
I want y'all, I just want to be, I don't want to ever see y'all act like I saw her kids act today. I just don't.
Well, there's a way we can do that. You have to write down what your wishes would be. Okay? Doesn't take too long. I just did this last week at my doctor. I got a few extra forms. And I also got this great book. And it has the forms in there so we can read that and kind of go over what the form is. Write down what your wishes are. And then that way we know. Can we do it now?
I guess. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's do it now. Let's go ahead and do it now.
So, this is the book that we were given in the workshop.
Okay.
And my doctor had this form right here. It's in the back of this book too. Okay, so this is a really great resource. I want you to read through this when you get some time.
Okay.
Okay. But the form is right here in the back of this. It's the same thing that I completed. I'm not an expert, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't answer all your questions, but I can help you go through the form if you like.
Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it.
Okay, good. So the first part here is going to be talking about your agent. And the agent is just the person that you're going to assign to make the decisions for you if you can't speak for yourself. Okay. It doesn't have to be me just because I'm here. You're not obligated, okay? But take some time and think about this, okay? Because that person is going to have a big responsibility, okay?
What are they going to do?
They're in charge of making sure that what your wishes are is what happens.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the first part of this. The second part is talking about your wishes for quality of life. So if you are sick and there are certain comfort things or pain management things, that's what this section talks about. Again, I'm not an expert, but this is where you can make your decisions about what type of care you want, what type of treatments, what measures you will want taken, okay?
Okay.
So that's all in here. The next part is wishes for treatment as well. This is just more about the quality of life, what's going to be acceptable to you and what's not.
Do I want, it says, I have indicated treatment I do not want, and I've indicated treatment I want. So if I, like the CPR, make my heart beat again and restore breathing after it stopped. So I would want that, I think.
Okay, well, we can talk about all of these, but again, I would want you to take this form. You think about it. We'll go over all of this, okay? But I want you to take this form to your doctor. You have an appointment next week, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so take this form to your doctor. Make sure you understood everything correctly.
Okay.
And then they can make it official there. The next part here on the back, additional things that you can make arrangements for, such as hospice care or burial arrangements, things like this you can document. Organ donation is also in here. And then you just sign it. And then we need a couple of witnesses. I'll be one. If I'm still in town, I'll come with you to your doctor's appointment next week. If you'd like, I don't want to barge in your conversation. This is a very personal conversation. And I say that, Mom, because I love you. And I know you love me, but I don't have to be part of this decision. Okay, this is all about what you want. Very simple form. And then once it's completed that way, we'll know what you want done. If you get sick and you can't talk for yourself, we'll know how to respond to that. And we'll know that this is what you wanted.
Right.
And I think that's the missing piece, because Most families don't have that. And if they don't have that, then they're guessing and they have to try to figure it out. And it can be challenging. People fight, and I don't want to fight with my siblings about this.
Yeah. I don't want y'all to fight. I don't want y'all to fight.
I don't want to fight either. Okay. And I want to make sure that we respect what you want. Okay. Because you deserve that. Yeah. Your friend deserved that too.
She really did. We hope that you have enjoyed this educational session today. Now that you have all the tools to create an advance directive, we hope you'll create yours. And we hope that you will teach others in your community how to create an advance directive for themselves as well. Blessings to you.